All right, so welcome back, and of course we will continue the program. We're discussing about the dialogue process, looking at the morphology and sociology. How, of course, is that dialogue process going to constitute, or how is it going to pan out? That is what we are looking into this edition of Matters. Let me take a few text messages. This one says, Chair Eric in Limbe says, Mom, Reverend, we are having a wonderful time getting this information from you. Keep telling the government what we need. You are a true mother. All right. Okay, this other one says, good evening, Hi TV. It is Moses writing from Moliko. I love the way Madam is talking. Okay. This other one says that agreement is a key in dialogue, but both parties believe in success. It's coming from Samuel at Likumba. In my 16, okay. This one says, I am Kumba Henry calling from mile 18 Boya. Inasmuch as we appreciate the head of state's message for his good will toward the dialogue table, considering the frame for the dialogue, it seems there is something in the cupboard to be presented on that day. Let's wait and see. I have confidence with the Prime Minister. Greetings to all on panel. This other one says, good evening, gentlemen. This is an opportunity for English-speaking Cameroonians to leverage on and end the suffering brought upon us ourselves. If we still prove headstrong that it must be secession, then we should be ready for more deaths and sufferings. Perhaps when we shall start eating rats like the Biafrans did, then we will stop on our own. We'll stop on our own without anyone telling us. It's coming from Aswa, writing from Boya. Good evening in the studio. I'm Divine from Boya. The president wants dialogue now. Those who have positioned the Amber fighters on ground zero are in jail. Would the gun exchange stop? I don't think so. He should have everything. Well, quite a good number of text messages. I think that we just have to continue. Mr. Njomo, we're talking about, okay, looking at it, if we take the final consideration that dialogue process should have anywhere but Yaoundé, the next thing is is it possible to have the separatists sit with the military on one side with other government officials to talk about the dialogue process? Is that possible by your reading?
Yannick, it's very possible, but the chances are even more reduced with this current government. Remember, I was arrested in Yaoundé some months ago when somebody gave me a fake call and I got myself into serious trouble. And so, thinking that this conference is going to take place in Yaoundé already just make me so uncomfortable. You see, we cannot be having a struggle in the northwest and southwest, and we think that we have to resolve the conflict in Yaoundé. It is unheard of. The same thing goes with those who think that we should have a Swiss dialogue. You see, there are two extremists that are dictating their own rules and want the people just to follow them. Why not rethink the AGC of Cardinal Toumé, which had at least a roadmap? We are even talking of a national dialogue without a roadmap. Nobody knows what will take place tomorrow or thereafter, or what will take place the D-Day. Everything is just on consultation. And so I have every reason to doubt the good faith behind. I was looking at the AGC of Cardinal Toumé is given more flesh since it's a process that started over 1 year ago, and so they must have gone a long way in mobilization, both of resources and of personality. In this case, real people who can speak on behalf of the Anglophone fraction. We risk, Yannick, and read my lips well, to go in for a meeting where even the Anglophone conflict or war will not really be a main matter of the day. Because when they have convened traditional rulers, and I know the way some of these people from the south, especially the south region, they behave. They are true extremists. They can just get up and start talking about, because I have some headlines here that the president tried to introduce. That will be the main topic of the day. He talked of bilingualism, reconstruction, returns of refugees, decentralization, reinsertion, the role of the diaspora, and all those things. And these are already things that we in the Cameroonian movement we introduced in our political manifesto of the last presidential election. I must recognize here that part of it has been copied, but when it comes to bringing solution, it should properly be copied, because if they copy that, they are going to talk about the Anglophone General Conference and they bring in the Francophone faction. For me, that is not a solution that we should accept. And going in for those kind of solutions, we'll just go there and sit and listen to other people talking. They'll be talking about their various issues, especially when it comes to regional balance. He did mention of two things, and that's what I'm going to learn. He talked about regional balance, that Anglophones should stop complaining of marginalization. That since 1992 in this country, those who have been holding the position of prime minister are Anglophone, and he does that well in mind that he is somehow giving them what is due to them. I want to tell him, no sir, you are not giving favor to the Anglophone faction. We should stop comparing the two Anglophone regions to the 8 other regions. Historically, we are back with an identity, and that is what His Excellency President Paul Biya is refusing. So going into this national dialogue with this mindset, Yannick, you tell me already how possible we shall talk about the real Anglophone problem. The real Anglophone problem will not be talked. And again, they are bringing one actor into the dialogue and another one is absent. They said the army are going to be represented by their officials. Then they are not talking about the armed separatists. How possible who shall be talking with who? So we risk to go in for a dialogue where the Anglophone issue will not even be on the table, and we'll just be turning there talking about the social polemics that is actually marring Cameroon and other things, but not the Anglophone crisis.
Right. And yes. Maybe Yannick, before you come in, maybe buttress is fact. When the president said that Anglophones should not complain of marginalization, that over the years the prime minister's posts have always been occupied by Anglophones, and after the Northwest is the Southwest. But we also need to remind the president that in years back, the post of the prime minister was second in command in Cameroon. Right. But now the post of the prime minister is the 4th. And so we have the president, who is French-speaking. We have the president of the Senate, who is French-speaking. We have the president of the Constitutional Council, who is French-speaking. Then the prime minister. So meaning that there is no favor. And if Anglophones have been narrowed down to being comfortable with the post of prime minister, I think that is gross misinterpretation. And I really can join my voice in saying that it is marginalization. But then, let's not dwell on that. Let's dwell on the crux of the matter.
Right, but I like to, because that really has been on the table of discussion each time. When the president alters those words, making all of that and says that there is no Anglophone problem and rated that because there is regional balance and all of that, do you blame the speech writer, or you blame actually the president who read the speech? Because it would appear maybe the president could be misled. If of course we have to go by the fact that
a true president is supposed to understand his country, that whoever writes his speech is supposed to read that speech, and we cannot blame the writer of the speech. We blame the person who takes responsibility of that speech, and that person who takes responsibility is the head of state, His Excellency Paul Biya.
Okay, now you're still watching Matters coming to you live from High TV. We are very delighted knowing you are watching, and of course we're digging deep into the dialogue process, looking at how it's going to come out, how possible it can lead to solving this crisis, this deepening crisis that has left our two English-speaking regions resting for the past 3 years. Now, Mr. Ngwa, now give us the other part of this, your model. You think the dialogue will be effective what are the parts that you left out that you feel that if it is added to whatever the Prime Minister has been putting up, it'll be a successful dialogue?
The other part is very important, is revenue sharing. If that conversation on the form of state happens in a structured, transparent, and productive manner, effective, there has to be a decision on a revenue sharing system. There are lots of options out there. It can be 65 to 35, 35, 65, 50, 50, whatever people think that would make sense. We need to have a system where people know that for the locally generated resources, this is what goes to the central system, and this is what stays back in communities that can be used for development projects. There has to be an approach towards proximity development. It's centralization. This crisis is a crisis against centralization, and so that revenue sharing system would permit us to be able to correct some of the harm that has happened in these regions. I remember that there was a study that I carried out with a number of colleagues a couple of years ago. I think it was 2017 budget, where we found out that the Northwest, in terms of public expenditure spending, had 6% of the budget. The Southwest had 5.9, and when you added 6 plus 5.9, it gave you less than the amount that was allocated to the South region. Now, if you look at it by any other way, including population density or whatever, nothing explains that you allocate 6% to the Northwest, 5.9 to the Southwest, and about 13, for example, to the South, or 14% to the South. It doesn't make sense, given that, going by a number of statistics, the Northwest and the Southwest are generating thereabout 40% of the revenue in this country. Therefore, it doesn't make sense. So a revenue sharing mechanism which may come in within the conversations on the form of state is very important. There's something I need to digress a little bit and make sure that we have a proper understanding about the concept of regional balance. It's a concept that we use a lot, but we don't take time to sit back and ask ourselves, what does it mean? To the person watching from home, when you put something on a scale, if they weigh the same, you say there's balance. So when you say regional balance, and if you have 100 people and you put 2 people or you put 8 people on one side and you put 82 on the other side, the scale tips to one side. We don't talk about regional balance. If there's one takeaway from this program, I like to insist on this thing, because this term keeps on coming regularly. The way you do regional balance is, if you say you're going by 10, you're dividing by 10 units, you expect to see 10% of each of the 10 units in order to have balance. If you say you are dividing by 2 units, you expect to see 50% of each of the 2 units represented. We cannot, there's a difference between regional representation and regional balance. Balance, even a child in primary school already has an idea about what balance is. It means that 2 things weigh the same, they balance. So when we talk about regional balance, when you have a NAM results come out, maybe out of 100, you are seeing about 6 Anglophones or something like that. It cannot be regional balance, except that we have not learned, we have not studied, we have never had any knowledge of balance in our life. It cannot be balance. It may be representation, it is not balance. Balance is balance. Balance is a state of equilibrium. Once you identify that, what are you balancing? Are you balancing 10 regions, or you are balancing Anglophone, Francophone? In whatever way you are balancing, we have never had any of those 2 modes of balance in this country. We have never had balance on the basis of 10 units at equilibrium, or on the basis of 2. So let's not be constantly fooling ourselves, or we should not constantly let other people tell us things that are not true. Regional balance has never taken place. And so we may have had regional representation. That has not and should not be mistaken for regional balance. And maybe that's one of the things that would need to come up within the context of this dialogue. We expect also, one of the things that we've suggested is that the language of deliberations should, given that the focus is on the Anglophone crisis, we expect deliberations to take place in English. We expect documents to be issued, to be processed in English, and we have suggested, as one of our suggestions in the document that we issued was for us to have live streaming so that journalists like you should be able to broadcast to the people of the Northwest and Southwest 24/7 what is happening. This already happens in parliaments in Europe and even in the US, where you have media covering
just like what was done on the Constitutional Council session.
Exactly
like that.
Exactly. So that the people should sit and they should be able to see who is saying what, how decisions are taken, who is deciding on what, and who is proposing what. Transparency is very important in governance. You cannot lock people in a room and then they come out with a sheet of paper and say they decided on this. It's not going to work. We need, in this era, in the digital age, we need to be able to replicate what happened, as you rightly said, during the debates at the Constitutional Council, so that people can sit on Facebook or switch on their TV sets and be able to watch minute by minute what is being discussed and who is saying what and how the direction of the discussions.
All right, let's take a few more text messages. This one says, good evening, please. Any Anglophone going to sit on the dialogue table without the main party still in prison? Please, you are risking yourself and your family. The Prime Minister, of course, cannot handle this issue. He will send Mafani PM and order to go and talk to those fools and might. Well, I can't really understand the text message. The text message per se. This one says, good evening to you all in the studio. Congrats, Mr. Yannick, you're doing a great job. The dialogue that Mr. Biya has called is likened to a 4-story building built on sand. A housewife who wants to tie a pudding with one hand. A soldier going to war without a rifle or cartridge. What we need now is an international dialogue with a third party and not a national dialogue. It's coming from Michelle, writing from mile 16. This other one says, good evening, I'm Davis from Boya. To be civilized, you must not be educated. Okay, we end that text at that. This other one, it says, good evening, dear panelists. I'm Danila Bless from Mutengene. The head of state doesn't really want to solve this problem from my point of view. Firstly, it's not feasible because of the timing. And secondly, the very most important people whom the boys holding arms in the bushes are holding instructions from are in jail. That's the Naira 10 or the Naira 10. The IG and Mr. Chua Yaba. These are the people who are fighting against the military. If these particular groups of people are not on the dialogue table, then I'm afraid this dialogue will end in a total fiasco, as the armed groups won't drop down their arms and leave the bushes. Thank you. All right. Good evening. I am much afraid of the outcome of this call for dialogue. We need a foreign mediator, and the venue shouldn't be Cameroon. The parliamentarians and senators to take part in this conference wouldn't suggest anything positive, as for the last 3 years they have never discussed this in their parliament. Who are we fooling? Terence is asking that question. Good evening. I think we have to distance ourselves from some prophets of doom that we have in the studio. Okay. Okay, maybe I should read the text. Some panelists seem to already know the resolutions of the dialogue before time, which is wrong. Please, let us give chance for the leaders to reflect on their ideas, and if possible, we should send our contributions instead of castigating what fruitful move the head of state has instructed. It's coming from Elvis. This other one says, good evening to you guys in the studio. For the so-called dialogue to succeed, it should not take place in Cameroon. There should be a third party. No parliamentarian nor senator should be there. It's coming from Jume Charles, writing from Muya. This other one says that the PM is the 7th personality of the Republic, and it should be noted that Anglophones are not a tribe or ethnic group. The subject this evening is too academic and confusing. Rather than rambling on the words, I urge Southern Cameroonians to package their points and select delegates for the dialogue we've all been asking for. If we don't do it, then we shall lose both national and international credibility. It's coming from Pa Eyongebi in Tiko. Thank you, Pa Eyongebi. Hi TV, good evening, Hi TV. My name is Navlova from Limbe, or Novialo from Limbe. I'm happy that the Prime Minister is part of the dialogue process because he is from the Southwest, and the head of state should remove Sisiko and co because they are the key of the dialogue. This other one, good evening. Let's look forward to the dialogue and those who will represent us at the table. The President has given us a framework to air out our worries, and the dialogue should take place in a neutral place like Bafoussam, Douala, Boya, or Bamenda. Okay, it's coming from Pa John Achu from Moliko. Right, Reverend, we are wrapping up. Your last word.
Yes, Yannick, I must say that there is nothing as important as peace, and we are trying here to air our views so that those who have to represent us should have them in mind. There is this dire need for peace, and they should also take into consideration that women must be represented on that dialogue table. Because if women are not represented, we are the ones giving birth to those children. And we are the ones bearing our sons and daughters. So women should be given a chance. And I end with this quote still from Albert Einstein. He says, peace cannot be attained by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. And again he says, there is no way to peace. Peace is the only way. And so my last words is that we need peace. Let us give peace a chance.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Reverend. Leslie, tell us, you've given us some wonderful academic thoughts on how the dialogue process will go, should say academic model. Tell us, what is the last thing you like to see to conclude this program?
As a my last comment will be, this is not the ideal situation. We have found we have to accept the real situation in which we find ourselves in. I think in the course of the program, we have highlighted some of the challenges and some of the difficulties around this dialogue process. But we have also said that we need to give our full support to the process. We need to do our best and to expect that the positive outcomes. Practically speaking, one of the things that I suggest that we need to do going forward is for the AGC to be able to take upon itself a situational leadership position and to bring the Anglophone community together. We hope that this time they can be able to organize some kind of meeting before the formal dialogue process, during which delegates can be selected, during which team building can be done, and during which people can be able to work together and begin to strategize. Of course, that work has started a long time before. We hope that that can be crystallized around the platform that the AGC presents to us. The final thing I need to say is the importance of mediation. So a lot of people have talked about that. It's very important for credibility for some kind of independent mediator to be on that table. There are suggestions out there. One of the key suggestions that could easily be acceptable by all parties is a country like Germany, for example. Because if we have a country like the US, it's most likely the government will want to kick against. If you have a country like France, most likely the Anglophone community or the separatists may want to kick against. A country like Germany may be a good mediator. If it's not possible for a mediator to be accepted, then we need to have the international community there in an observer capacity, at least to be able to observe and take note of what is happening. Finally, I'd say that, well, we continue to have the conversation. We have had nice comments from those who are watching us. we are here to share opinions and to share our little bit so that we can be able to help ourselves and help our people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This one says that good evening. Good evening, my good people in the studio. I am Rose from Boya. For the dialogue process to be effective, it should not be in with the absence of the UN. I think that the military, that is, it should be a total absence of UN-trained Cameroon military and a total absence of Cameroon, Anglophone Cameroon. Well, I don't understand the text message per se. This one says that the government needs dialogue where the leaders who will represent the English Cameroonians at the dialogue table. Okay, it's coming from Miss Fai writing. This other one says, we have really suffered in this crisis. We need this dialogue in order to find a lasting solution. Our children need to go to school. People have to return to their houses from the bushes. And as I speak, I am an internally displaced person. It's coming from Allen Amin Tazifo from Boya. Okay, Allen Tazifo, thank you. Good evening to you guys in the studio. Two enemies can't solve their problems without the middleman involved. That is the dialogue. That is, the dialogue cannot be carried out successfully without the third party who will stand like a middle person to put an end to the crisis. This other one says, all right, it seems to be an insultive message. Clarice from Tico, we cannot take your message because you sound insultive to the head of state, which of course cannot be taken. Good evening to all. Mr. Leslie, you are perfectly right. We need a transparent dialogue. Is coming from Tatiana. Good evening to you all in the studio. Who will sit for the so-called dialogue? And we do not want anybody from the CPDM. They are all his people, and everything should be in English. I am Marcel from Mutengene. Okay, the question of who will seems to be coming up. We're wrapping up, Mr. Njamo.
Yes, I want to run up by saying that His Excellency President Paul Biya did mention of the regional election that is upcoming, and that is going to end up the decentralization process. Should I remind him that Cameroonians in their large majority are still having a question mark on the modus operandi of ELECAM. So having to, to provide a solution that the regional election that is upcoming, where we are going to have our regional house of assembly, and we will be deciding about our budget and all the like, that is going to quench the noise on the street. I don't really think that is a panacea as of now, Mr. President. So I'll run up by saying that we are 3 weeks into the national dialogue. The Prime Minister is a very proactive person. I know he will put in 120% to make sure that this national dialogue should yield fruit. And for once, I want to be positive and give him and wait till the end. Then I can be able to analyze and know that something has happened. Congratulations to Mr. Biya, who for once have surprised me to come out and call for a national dialogue. Really, Yannick, upon all my mad dreams, all happy dreams, I never thought he could do this. So congratulations for him for once.
Right. So this other one says, hi, good evening. I love your program. I am watching from Mutengene. It's Asaba Sheril writing from Mutengene. And I will take this last one before we leave. Please, there should be a total absence of untrained Cameroon military and complete absence. All right. We can't go further. So many text messages still coming in. We have to close it on this note. Thank you for watching. I've been Yannick Fonke for hosting. I want to thank Reverend Geraldine Forbang, who is the station manager of the Christian Broadcasting Service. She is also the coordinator and president of the Cameroon Community Media Network. It is a communication network that seeks to bring peace and development in communication. As well, she is a reverend pastor, associate pastor with the Presbyterian Church, Boy Town. All right, we also have in the studio Leslie Ngwa, a fine journalist, of course, and media trainer, and he is the CEO of the Cameroon, the Communication for Development consultancy firm. And we also had Njomo Cyril. Mr. Njomo Cyril is a militant with the Cameroon Renaissance Movement. He is a political dichotomist in this program. Thanks for watching. Until we meet again on Thursday, same time, good night.